Hey guys, I'm Urizi. This story is all about what if Naruto became a demigod and fought a sea of monsters. After having a break, Naruto, Percy, and Annabeth come back to find that camp is dying and monsters are able to enter the border. To make things worse, Chiron has been replaced by someone who doesn't care about camp. Even, Grover is in trouble. The demigods must once again go on a quest to save camp, their new home. Unbeknownst to them, they are playing in the Crooked One's hands. Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 11, Showdown at Polyphemus Island Part 1. The demigods climbing the cliff up to the cave on top froze as soon as they heard the monsters bellow from inside the cave. It was coming from right below them. "You're a feisty one," the monstrous voice continued. "Fight me, you disfigured blob," a familiar voice challenged. "Give me back my sword, so I can slice you to a million pieces," the monster roared in laughter. "Isn't that?" Percy mouthed. Clarice, Naruto, and Annabeth confirmed. The trio managed to find an opening in the wall where they could peek inside, but not enter from. There was even a ledge wide enough for them to find. Looking inside, they saw Grover along with a Cyclops several feet taller than Tyson, maybe 15 feet tall. He has jagged yellow teeth, a green eye and gnarled hands as the demigods. He was wearing a baby blue wedding tuxedo and kilt. This is Polyphemus, resident of the island and guardian of the fleece, also soon to be husband of Grover if his friends don't hurry up and save him. I've been wanting to say this, but Grover doesn't suit that dress at all, Naruto commented, earning giggles from his two friends. "Do you sense Tyson anywhere?" Percy asked. "Sorry, Perce, he's just not here," Naruto answered. Then Polyphemus pondered aloud, eat loudmouth girl now or wait for wedding feast? What does my bride think? Did you say?" The tied-up girl was about to call out Grover on his disguise, but the satyr hurriedly went over to cover her mouth with her hand. "We shouldn't eat our only guest for the wedding," Grover suggested. "She could." This time it was Grover's turn to be cut off. As he was talking, Clarice bit his hand with a solid crunch. "Ouch!" Grover screamed in pain. He pulled away his hand and nursed it. Clarice took this time the satyr out. "That's not your bride, you giant idiot." "That's a satyr." "That idiot," Annabeth said as quietly as she could. "She has to stop." Percy stood up. Luckily, Naruto held him back down. "Let me go, Naruto. I'll wring her neck." "No, Percy," Naruto reasoned. "Not when we have the element of surprise." Back inside, the Cyclops was considering Clarice's words. "What satyr? Where?" "You brought a satyr, loudmouthed girl." "That one, you buffoon, the one in the wedding dress." The demigods outside could only watch in horror as Polyphemus ripped off Grover's wedding veil, revealing his curly hair, his scruffy adolescent beard, his tiny horns. The giant Cyclops breathed in sharply as he tried to contain his anger. "I don't see very well," he growled. "Not since many years ago when the other hero stabbed me in the eye." "But you're no lady Cyclops." There was force on each of his words when he couldn't hold in his anger anymore. Polyphemus grabbed Grover's dress and tore it away. Underneath, the old Grover reappeared in his jeans and t-shirt. He yelped and ducked as the monster swiped over his head. Percy was about to make another move when he heard Grover think fast on his feet. "Stop," Grover pleaded. "Don't eat me raw. I have a good recipe." "That smart little goat," Percy muttered. "Oh yeah, yes. You don't want to eat me raw. You'll get E. coli and botulism and all sorts of horrible things. I'll taste much better grilled over a slow fire. With mango chutney. You could go get some mangoes right now, down there in the woods. I'll just wait here." Grover closed his eyes awaiting the inevitable. It was worth a try to sell this point to the Cyclops. He didn't know if it would work. But, what happened next caught him off guard, much to his delight. "Grilled satyr with mango chutney," Polyphemus mused. The satyr released the breath he was holding as he breathed a sigh of relief. The Cyclops, then, turned to Clarice, who was still tied up, and asked, "You a satyr, too?" "No, you overgrown pile of dung," she yelled. "I'm a girl. The daughter of Ares. Now untie me so I can rip your arms off." "Rip my arms off?" Polyphemus chuckled. "Yeah," she continued. "And I'll stuff them down your throat. You are a spunky one. Let me down." Polyphemus snatched up Grover as if he were a wayward puppy. "Have to graze sheep now. Wedding postponed until tonight. Then we'll eat satyr for the main course." "But, you're still getting married." Grover sounded hurt. "Who's the bride?" Polyphemus looked toward the boiling pot. Clarice made a strangled sound. "Oh, no. You can't be serious." "I'm not." The trio who were eavesdropping outside couldn't hold on their laughter as they put two and two together on who was going to be the new bride. Their rounds of laughter caused them their chance to get in the cave. When they realized, Polyphemus was already rolling the boulder to the cave opening as easily just like he was closing a refrigerator door. "Damn it," Naruto complained. "We were too busy laughing." They tried to push the stone as hard as they could. They even tried to send a signal to their friends, but there was no indication that the two inside was able to hear them. Just then, footsteps could be heard that came from no one in particular. Naruto wasn't surprised when he heard them. "Took you long enough," Naruto said aloud. "You're one to talk," a disembodied voice answered. The owner of the voice revealed himself. In the three's midst was the clone they sent on the retrieval mission had finally came back. When his camouflage was completely gone, he continued, "You haven't even saved Grover yet. There's a boulder on the way," Annabeth explained. Percy noticed something odd on the clone. Something was different about his appearance. He was about to comment on it when the Cyclops bellow was heard throughout the island. "Gaia!" he said. "Where did the fleece go?" The monster was lumbering around the island looking through every nook and cranny for the fleece. He even lifted some rock to check under them. "That was fast," Percy said. "I didn't think he would notice it right off the bat." "Well, it is gold and glistening," Naruto said. "You would notice it if it is gone." The ground shook. Polyphemus was headed their way to look for the fleece in the cave. "What do we do?" Percy asked his friends. "I know," Annabeth said. She reached in her back pocket producing her New York Yankees baseball cap. "That's brilliant," Naruto praised. "I don't get it," Percy said. "There's no time, Percy. He's almost here," Naruto said. "Let's go." Percy and Naruto scrambled to hang over the cliffside. Annabeth put on her baseball cap, and she vanished into thin air. When Polyphemus was close, she started her scheme. "Long time no see, ugly," Annabeth started. "Who said that?" Polyphemus stiffened. "Nobody," Annabeth answered. The Cyclops' face turned red with rage. He forgot his earlier problem. "Nobody," Polyphemus yelled back. "I remember you." "You're too stupid to remember anybody," Annabeth taunted. "Much less nobody," Polyphemus bellowed furiously. He grabbed the nearest boulder, which happened to be his front door, and threw it toward the sound of Annabeth's voice. Apparently, he thought nobody's voice was over the cliff. The boulder flew over the edge of the cliff. The demigods even heard the splash when it hit the water's surface. Annabeth immediately continued to taunt him. "That's the wrong direction, idiot. Hasn't your eye healed yet?" Polyphemus howled. "Come here. Let me kill you, nobody." "You can't kill nobody, you stupid oaf," she taunted. "Come find me." Polyphemus barreled down the hill toward her voice. When Naruto and Percy were sure that the Cyclops was far away, they immediately entered the cave. They searched throughout the cave Grover and Clarice. Naruto was locked onto the two's energy signature, but there were so many twists and turns in the cave. Just like in their dream, the corridors were littered with bones and life-sized cement sheep that the two recognized was a work of Medusa. They saw the collections of sheep t-shirts, large tubs of lanolin cream, and woolly coats, socks, and hats with rim's horns that they remembered from their dream. Eventually, the two found the spinning room, where Grover was huddled in the corner, trying to cut Clarice's bonds with a pair of safety scissors. "It's no good," Clarice said. "This rope is like iron. Just a few more minutes." "Grover," she cried, exasperated. "You've been working at it for hours." Clarice's eyes widened when the two boys entered her line of sight. "Percy and Naruto. You two are supposed blown up or eaten." "It's nice to see you two, Clarice," Naruto answered. Hearing the daughter of Ares' words, Grover stood up to see for himself. His eyes shone when he saw his friends standing over them. "Percy, Naruto." He bleated and tackled the two in a goat hug. "You came." "Of course, we did, G-Man," Percy said. "Glad to see you're not married," Naruto said. "Same with you, Clarice." Shut up," Clarice managed. "Damn," Naruto commented. "This thing is so comfy." "What are you talking about?" Grover asked. "Hold on a sec," Naruto answered. The three stood up and brushed the dirt from their clothes. "This thing here," the blonde showed the people in the room what he had on his shoulder. "Wait, how'd you get that when you're here?" Clarice asked. "I sent my clone to get it," Naruto explained. "He'll be furious when he finds out that it's gone," Grover said. "Oh, he was," Percy said. But he quickly forgot when Annabeth did the nobody thingy. "Is she okay?" Grover asked. "She'll be fine," Naruto answered. "I mean the Cyclops is a bumbling idiot, yeah no. That's great and all," Clarice cleared her throat. "But, could you get me down from here now?" "On it," Percy said. Uncapped his sword, walked towards the hanging Clarice. "I should call her out now," Grover said. "Who?" That made Naruto curious. "You'll see," Grover whistled. A small dire wolf pup came out of the shadows, barking happily and wagging her tail. "Ah," Naruto swooned. "She's the pup from the dreams." "How'd you find her?" "She somehow found me while I was in Florida. She was with me while we were searching until Polyphemus came after us," Grover explained. "Oh cool," Naruto said as he rubbed the pup's belly much to its delight. "What's your name, girl?" "I haven't got the chance to name her yet," Grover said. "You know, with the kidnapping and all." "Ah, I wonder what I should call you," Naruto thought aloud. The four were broken out of their conversations when they heard a scream followed by a monster's bellow. This time more invisible footsteps came, followed by giant lumbering steps following her. The footsteps stopped in the room they were in. The owner of the footsteps revealed itself at that moment. It was Annabeth, who took off her baseball cap. She caught her breath. She apparently took Polyphemus for a wild goose all around the island and back to the cave. "He's here," Annabeth said in between pants. The lumbering footsteps drew closer. And Polyphemus' angry voice echoed through the cave. "Nobody. Come here so I can bash your head," the Cyclops said. Clarice cracked her knuckles. "He's no problem. I'll rush him." "Not a good idea," Naruto berated her. "You got caught the first time you tried," she growled at him. "We have to attack him together," Percy suggested. Clarice grit her teeth. She obviously was not happy about the plan. "Anyone up for attack plan, Macedonia?" Naruto said. Percy hefted his sword, which he used to free the daughter of Ares earlier. Clarice picked up a highly collectible Remshorn spear from the Cyclops cave. Grover had found a sheep's thigh bone, which he didn't look too happy about, but he was gripping it like a club, ready to attack. Polyphemus finally made it to the room everyone was in. "What is this?" he asked when he saw the extra people in the room. "Who are you? Why can't you recognize me, ugly?" Percy taunted. "What? You are nobody?" the Cyclops asked. "No, ugly. I'm the one who insulted you," Naruto taunted to confuse the monster. "There are two of you?" he asked. Now he didn't know what was happening. "Yeah, I poked your eye," Grover added. "What are you gonna do about it, ugly?" Naruto and Percy said the same time. Polyphemus roared. Naruto dragged Annabeth behind him and gave her the fleece to hold. She momentarily strained under the weight. It was heavier than any one of them thought. Grover yelled a battle cry as he rushed in from the right. He threw his sheep bone, which bounced harmlessly off the monster's forehead. Clarice ran in from the left and set her spear against the ground just in time for the Cyclops to step on it. He wailed in pain, and Clarice dove out of the way to avoid getting trampled. Percy slid in between his legs and stabbed him in the thigh. Normally, monsters would disintegrate when touched by the godly metal that made up the demigod's weapons, but this time it was different. The monster withstood the attack. He didn't break apart into golden dust. Ow! That hurt! Polyphemus yelled. Damn it! He's a tough one. Percy complained. Knock him down, then we get out. Naruto said. Right. Percy and Clarice said. The three demigods worked in tandem as if they weren't at odds against each other before. Naruto went in first. They fought the Cyclops bravely, charging again and again. Each of the demigods had a close call as Polyphemus tried to pound at them or make for a grab. When the first opening they got, Naruto rammed himself onto the Cyclops, making him stagger backwards in front of one of his shelves. Percy and Clarice knocked the shelf, making it fall onto the Cyclops, breaking all of Polyphemus' snow globes and trophies. Then, the three pushed him to the ground. He fell onto the shards of glass that broke from his stuff with a huge thump. Naruto somehow picked up one of the stone sheep and slammed it on the Cyclops on the ground. His friends looked at him oddly at his feats of strength, but were not able to. True to the monster's durability, the demigod's onslaught wasn't enough to keep him down. He was beginning to stir. Let's get out of here. Grover wailed. He, then, picked up the puppy on the floor and ran outside, while everyone followed in tow. All of them made it out of the cave. The sun blinded Grover and Clarice for a moment, being in the cave for a prolonged period of time. They took a look around. The effects of the fleece's removal were already starting to show. The grass was starting to wilt, and the leaves of the trees started to turn brown. Where do we go? Percy asked. The others didn't know what to answer as well. In front of them, past the bridge, there were man-eating sheep waiting for next piece of flesh that would waltz into their clearing. On the other hand, the Polyphemus was already on his feet and was walking out of the. Fortunately for them, I have an idea. Percy said, and he ran to the bridge. Where are you going? Clarice asked. Yeah. Did you forget that the woolly piranhas are over there? Annabeth added. Trust me. He yelled back. Polyphemus' giant footsteps were now getting louder from inside the cave. Grover ran after Percy in fear. Guys, the man-eating sheep look awfully better than Mr. Ugly in the cave. Naruto said. Damn it. All right. The girls relented. The remaining three tore down the hill to join Percy standing at the bridge's opening. Polyphemus made it out of the cave and saw the demigods. You! Polyphemus yelled in rage. You steal my wifey and my food. We're not married yet, stupid. Clarice yelled back. And you're not going to eat me. Never. Grover added. Gah. I will grind you into sheep chow. Polyphemus yelled and bounded towards them. Percy ran across the bridge. His friends followed his lead and ran across with him. Annabeth was able to keep up with the others despite her added load due to her training with the ankle weights. As soon as Percy made it to the other side, he started to saw on the bridge ropes with his blade. They were surprisingly tough. It was probably because it was made from the island's produce. When the others finally crossed, they joined in on the duty. They were only halfway done when the bridge started to shake. Polyphemus was already here. Damn. That fatso runs fast. Naruto complained aloud. I am not fat. Polyphemus yelled. Yeah, keep telling yourself that. Percy retorted as he raised his sword and made a wild slash on the remaining ropes as hard as he could. Naruto did the same. The bridge fell away into the chasm along with the Cyclops. The demigods fell on their butts. They needed to catch a breath after the non-stop fighting and running from the monster of the island. At least they don't have to fight anymore. Or so they thought. Huge hands made a grab at the area where the bridge used to be. The demigods close to the edge quickly jumped back to avoid his burly fingers. Thank the gods for their demigod reflexes, and shinobi reflexes for one blonde shinobi, that they were to dodge him. Polyphemus howled in delight as he pulled himself up the edge of the chasm. Yes. You failed. The Cyclops yelled in glee. Nobody failed. The demigods stood to face him. Clarice and Grover charged. Grover got swatted away. The brave satyr wasn't much of a fighter, but at least he tried. Annabeth ran to the satyr's side. Erg. My head. The satyr groaned. Back at the battle, Polyphemus slammed his fists at the Daughter of War. She rolled aside to dodge it. Percy came from behind the Cyclops and slashed at one of his legs, making him drop to a knee. Polyphemus twisted behind himself and swatted Percy aside. You think it's that easy? The Cyclops teased. You're forgetting about me, you dolt. Clarice yelled as she went for an attack. Don't announce your attacks. Naruto berated his friends. Too slow. The Cyclops yelled as he grabbed Clarice's weapon and flicked her away. Naruto rushed for his own attack. Naruto. No. Annabeth warned his friend. The blonde jumped to the side to avoid the fist aimed at his head. He produced a kunai from his pouch and slashed at his belly before ducking under the Cyclops' hand that made for a grab. Naruto didn't stop his attack. He appeared behind the Cyclops and jumped up to slam his elbow on his head. He ran back to the front and charged the Cyclops. This time though he wasn't expecting the Cyclops to attack him smarter than before. Another fist slammed at Naruto, to which he jumped to the side again, but the Cyclops wasn't finished. While Naruto was in the air, Polyphemus swiped at the blonde's feet, making him fall flat on his back. Not really smart now, are you, nobody? Polyphemus said as he loomed over the blonde. Naruto groaned. Polyphemus raised his fist to slam at the blonde. Nu! Annabeth yelled as she ran to aid the blonde. She was too late. The Cyclops slammed his fists at Naruto. The blonde could only raise his hands in an attempt to catch the massive fists. Chapter 12, Showdown at Polyphemus Island Part 2. Massive fists slammed down onto a blonde-haired boy, creating a miniature crater in his wake. All he could do was raise his arms to block them. His friends could only watch in horror as their friend was flattened like a pancake. The puppy whimpered at the sight. Or that's what they thought. Naruto opened his eyes. He wasn't crushed by the blow Polyphemus had given him. In fact, his arms were holding the Cyclops' fists at bay. Horror turned into confusion and then to amusement at what they saw. Everyone went wide-eyed, even the little guy that was with them, if that was possible. What? You're not dead? Polyphemus wondered aloud at why the demigod wasn't crushed. Throughout the whole fight earlier with Polyphemus, the demigods did not notice Naruto's features after he held onto the fleece. But now, they were able to see what had changed. Naruto's eyes had turned toad-like and small warts could be seen at random areas on his face. Some unknown location. In a small hut in a luscious jungle in the elemental nations, there sat a green toad with white hair styled in somewhat of a mohawk. He had very thick eyebrows and a small goatee on his chin. He was currently sitting on a small table with a bowl of soup and insects in front of him. Ma, this delicious like always. The green toad praised the meal he was currently enjoying. I'm glad you love it, Pa. Eat up. I have seconds. A purple-haired toad said from the kitchen said. She had a green underside with purple markings around her mouth and the back of her body. The top of her head looks as though she is wearing a hairnet with hair rollers underneath, making her look like an old woman. They were sharing a hearty meal with each other when someone barged in their house, startling the two owners. Lord Fukusaku, Lord Fukusaku. A toad with a high-pitched voice called out as she entered the hut. The toad barged into the dining room and saw the two toads eating their food. What is it? The old male toad named Fukusaku asked with a bit irritation in his voice. Can't you see I'm eating here? Sorry about that, Lord Fukusaku, Lady Shima. I have urgent news. The toad apologized. What are you waiting for then? Tell me. It happened again. This time Gamabuntasama was summoned into the unknown world. He had just returned. I see. We better attend to this matter right this instant. Fukusaku turned to his wife. Save some for me, will ya ma? Not a problem. Just return before the soup gets cold. His wife, who the toad had identified as Shima, replied. The two nodded, and then raced off to the recently arrived Toad Chief. When they got there, Gamabunta, the Toad Chief, sat nursing his feet. That damn Naruto summoning me in salt water of all places. Gamabunta complained to himself. Bunta boy. Fukusaku called out as he arrived. I hear you have returned from the strange land. Chief. Gamabunta bowed. Yes, I did. Was it different from what Gamaturo boy had been summoned to? Gamabunta nodded. I wasn't summoned in the area where he was. It was somewhere in the oceans this time. And I can confirm that it was Naruto who did summon us. So, Naruto is really alive then? Fukusaku mused. Yes, Chief. We must inform Jiraiya boy and Tsunade girl at once. Right. 30 degrees 31 minutes north, 75 degrees 12 minutes west, Island of Polyphemus, Sea of Monsters. Na Naruto. How are you doing that? Annabeth voiced the thoughts that plagued everyone's mind. I don't know. Naruto answered. I'm just as surprised as you are. Let's see. Naruto pushed the fists up as he got up to his feet. Polyphemus, believing that this was a fluke for the demigod, tried to push even harder, but it was to no avail. When the blonde was standing at full height, Polyphemus yanked his fists back to aim another punch. The ground shook as the punch connected, but it was not one the blonde. The punch was planted on the ground, cracks could be seen due to the weight of the punch. Naruto climbed up the arm up to the Cyclops' head and slammed his knee on the monster's crown. That shook the monster up. After that, he wasn't able to guard against the shinobi's onslaught. For the next few seconds, the blonde was almost like a blur as he slashed and stabbed and slammed and kicked the monster. Each of the blows' shockwaves somehow could be seen by the trained eyes of the demigods. Every time the one-eyed behemoth tried to grab the blonde shinobi, the appendage would be knocked away, and even Naruto's attacks missed. Somehow an invisible force still hit anyway. Polyphemus staggered as he stood in front of the yellow-haired youth. As if it was a last-ditch effort, he aimed another weak punch to his opponent, but the blonde's tiny hands caught it effortlessly. The latter yanked the arm and threw the Cyclops over his head, sending it tumbling down the hill. Naruto turned to face his friends, who practically had their jaws down at the ground after his show of strength. He beamed his trademark grin and thumb up at them. What are you doing? Clarice yelled. Go finish him before he could get up. The blonde's legs shook, struggling to keep him upright. Then, he fell down on his back. They rushed to his side to check for his condition. Annabeth was the first to arrive, kneeling at his side. Grover followed suit, the puppy even jumped off and licked Naruto's hand. Oh gods! Are you okay? She asked. I am okay. Naruto managed. What was that, man? Percy inquired. Where did all that strength come from? I am not sure. The blonde struggled for an answer. I just felt some energy flow in me, but when it was all gone, I feel so exhausted all of a sudden. You careless idiot. You almost got crushed. Annabeth scolded. Sorry about that. The downed demigod apologized. You better be. She answered as she fed the blonde some nectar and ambrosia. Now that we know you're okay, ninja boy, I'll go finish that monster off. Clarice volunteered, picking up Naruto's own weapon. Several thoughts made its way into Percy's mindscape, the majority of which was about an adorable young Cyclops that he was beginning to learn to love in a conversation they had atop Half-Blood Hill. Flashback. They're in almost all the big cities, Annabeth explained, her voice was dripping with distaste. They're mistakes, Percy. Children of nature, spirits and gods, well, one god in particular, usually, and they don't always come out right. No one wants them. They get tossed aside. They grow up wild on the streets. I don't know how this one found you, but he obviously likes you. We should take him to Chiron, let him decide what to do. He's crafty, I'll give him that, Naruto commented. What? Percy asked. Well, you know about their oath, about not having demigod children. Yeah. He's technically not breaking the oath with Tyson. Yeah, but the fire. How? Annabeth sighed. Haven't you learned anything from Greek mythology, seaweed brain? He's a cyclops. She said as if was remembering an unpleasant memory. They work the forges of the gods, Perce. They have to be immune to fire. Naruto continued for her as he comforted the daughter of Athena who was clearly shaken by her memories. End of flashback. Wait. Percy shouted to stop her. He stood up to intercept the daughter of Ares. Clarice loomed over the Cyclops who was now lying on his back, moaning from bleariness that the blows to the head. She raised her makeshift weapon ready to end the monster's time on Earth. Just as the tip of the blade was about to be plunged into the monster's loni, Percy grabbed Clarice's arm stopping the monster's supposed final blow. What are you doing, you idiot? Clarice demanded. Let go of my arm. Please, Nu. Don't kill me. Polyphemus pleaded from under the Kemp bully's feet. He was bruised and bloodied at different parts of his body. Tears welled from the monster's loni. My sheep eyes need me. Only trying to protect my sheep. He sounded heartbroken to the Percy that it further softened the heart of the son of Poseidon. After all, he, too, was a son of his father, albeit from another mother. Why do you believe him? Clarice's better judgment clashed against Percy's sympathy. He's a Cyclops. He's one of my brothers too. Percy explained. Are you serious? Let me go or he'll. Little did the arguing demigods know that the opponent at their feet had already recovered. As Percy pulled Clarice off the monster, massive hands moved to grab the two demigods and lifted them off the ground. Look what you did, Percy. Clarice scolded. Ha! Foolish mortals. Polyphemus gloated. Now to eat nobody and marry this feisty girl. Percy and Clarice's faces paled. The two demigods braced themselves for the inevitable. Polyphemus opened his enormous mouth to bite down on the demigod he knew as nobody. But, what they were waiting for never happened. Something flew over their head and embedded itself into the Cyclops' maw. A rock the size of a basketball sailed into Polyphemus's throat. It was a novice basketball player's dream, finally being able to hit a shot from beyond the arc. The Cyclops made a grab for his neck as he choked from the unintended hard pill he could swallow. He staggered back as he struggled to spit the rock out of his mouth. He walked back up the hill he rolled down from. Annabeth and Grover were now helping Naruto back up on his feet. The three watched as the Cyclops continued backward and careened over the cliff. Thinking he could fly, he made chicken wing motions that did nothing to help the bumbling oaf fly as he tumbled into the chasm. I thought I heard the two get captured. Grover said. Let's go check it out, Annabeth suggested. The three demigods made their way downhill to check out what had happened. They were surprised by who they had seen standing midway down the hill amidst the flock of killer sheep. Their group was whole again. Line break. Tyson regaled to his friend what had happened to him during the ship's explosion. Apparently, a hippocampus, who he named Rainbow, was responsible for Tyson's safe travels across the Sea of Monsters. According to Tyson, the hippocampus had been following Percy's group ever since they left the beaches of Long Island, wanting to play with the gentle giant. It was this lovely sea creature who had pulled the young Cyclops out of the burning wreckage of the CSS Birmingham and brought him to safety. Ever since then, they had been searching for them. It was only when Tyson caught a whiff of the nature magic in the sheep when they found the island. Tears welled up in Percy's eyes. He wrapped his brother in a tight hug. The bitterness he felt about his brother completely washed away. Tyson. I am sorry. He apologized. The big guy had a confused look on his face. Why? What did you do? Back at camp, I was ashamed of you being my brother, especially when the others teased me about it, Percy explained. I want you to know that I accept you completely. Tyson grinned. It's okay, brother. I know you didn't mean that. The other demigods smiled. Although, the satyr still couldn't get over his fear of Cyclopes, ever since that incident, that didn't stop him from being touched by the scene. I'm happy for you and all, but we have to go, Clarice said. But our ship is on the other side of the island, stated the son of Poseidon. Oh no, we destroyed the only way back, Grover said. Percy turned to his brother, Tyson, could you get rid of the sheep for a while? The sheep want food, the Cyclops said as the sheep milled around him. I know. They want people food. Just lead them away from the path. Give us time to get to the beach. Then join us there. Tyson looked doubtful, but he whistled. Come, sheep eyes. People food this way. He jogged off into the meadow, the sheep in pursuit. Let's go. Percy called out to his friends, feeling more confident. The sooner we get to the ship, the sooner we can leave. With Naruto still like this? Annabeth asked Percy. No, it's okay, Naruto insisted. I can do this. I hate to hinder our progress. Wrap the fleece around him again, so he could recover more quickly, Grover suggested. Sorry for being a burden, guys. That just took a whole lot of me than usual. Naruto apologized. It's okay. We got your back, just like you always got ours. Annabeth answered. Thank you, guys. They waded into the surf past the ravine when they heard a tremendous roar. It was their least favorite Cyclops. He was scraped up and bruised and still wearing his stupid baby blue tuxedo, but still very much alive. He was toting boulders in each hand ready to throw. You think he'd run out of rocks, Percy muttered under his breath. Swim for it, Grover yelled. Just a sec, I got this, Naruto yelled. One by one, the blonde shinobi went back and forth as he carried each of the demigods in the quest back into the Queen Anne's Revenge. When everyone was back on the ship, Naruto looked back at the guardian of the island. His gaze wasn't fixated on them. He was looking at Tyson. You, young Cyclops, Polyphemus began. Traitor to your kind. Tyson was jogging on the beach with the killer sheep close behind him. As soon as he heard Polyphemus' words, he froze. Don't listen to him, Percy pleaded. Come on. Percy swam back to shore, to pull his brother back to the ship, but it was to no avail. He would have had better luck pulling a mountain. Tyson turned to face the older Cyclops. I am not a traitor. You serve mortals, Polyphemus shouted. Thieving humans. Polyphemus threw his first boulder. Tyson swatted it aside with his fist. Not a traitor, Tyson said. And you are not my kind. He doesn't even serve us, Big Ugly, Naruto said as he joined them in the surf. Death or victory? Polyphemus yelled as he charged. There was still a limp in his stride from his earlier bout with the blonde shinobi. The three braced themselves to fight, but the older Cyclops didn't make it to them. He fell flat on his face as he stepped into the surf. It was a hilarious moment, indeed, if not for the murderous look on his face. Naruto, take Percy to the ship. Tyson stepped forward. Percy stopped him. No. He'll kill you. I already lost you once. He's right, big guy. Naruto nodded. We'll fare better if we do this together. Right. Tyson said. Let's make this quick. The demigods drew their weapons. Polyphemus advanced carefully. The limping on his foot only seemed to get worse, but that didn't mean his throwing arm was damaged as well. He picked up the rock he dropped and chucked it at the demigods. Tyson punched forward and broke the boulder to pieces. Percy willed the sea to rise, raising Naruto onto a 20-foot wave. The son of Poseidon made the wave crash into their opponent, blasting him with gallons of water. When the water subsided, he was covered in seaweed and a couple of fish were stuck in his mouth. The Cyclops spat the fish out, but Naruto didn't give him a chance to recover. A chakra-enforced kick sent Big Ugly back a bit, but not without hearing a sickening crunch. Naruto yelled in pain. Oh shit. My body's not durable anymore. Percy rushed to the blonde's aid and helped him hobble away. Tyson uprooted a tree like it was merely a splinter and repeatedly slammed it onto the island's guardian until he lay on the ground unmoving. Nice job, Tyson, Percy praised. Could you help me with Naruto? Naruto's foot all blue. Tyson commented. Yeah, I think I broke it with that kick, Naruto said. The three joined the others on the ship. Tyson sat the blonde down on deck and everyone swarmed them. The puppy even jumped off of Grover's arms and licked Naruto's face. I'm okay, girl, Naruto said. There. That was reckless, you three. Annabeth scolded them. They chuckled nervously. We did fight him together, Percy reasoned. And Tyson was awesome in that one, Naruto added. Tyson blushed and chuckled, and everyone laughed with him as their ship sailed away from the saddle-shaped island. Unbeknownst to them, Polyphemus slowly rose back up to his feet. His superior hearing picked up on the group's laughter. Suddenly, a boulder flew over their heads and made a huge splash in front of the boat. The demigods looked over at where the boulder landed and back at the island. One daughter of Ares got overconfident and yelled, "Ha! You missed, you overgrown piece of garbage." Clarice. No. The others tried to stop her in the most silent way they can. Polyphemus tried to look for them, but his cataract-ridden eye made it extremely difficult for him to see them. Long story short, he wasn't able to find them at all. He threw another boulder. This one was a little closer than any of them wanted. Not even close, big idiot. Clarice gloated again. Naruto and Percy had to pull her back, but it was too late. A third boulder sailed past their heads, wrecking the mast and crashing through the bow of the ship. Everyone in the water, Naruto commanded as another boulder crashed into the ship's hull. The ship was sinking faster than any of them had wanted. Everyone was struggling to stay afloat, especially Naruto, whose foot still hasn't recovered. He was holding on to Annabeth, trying to help her paddle. Clarice was hanging on to the fleece now, and it shimmered like a wave of pennies in the ocean. To make things worse, the ship underwater was trying to pull everyone down as it sank. They were managing to stay afloat despite the piles of timber floating all around them. Even the son of Poseidon with all his powers over the sea wouldn't survive being whacked on the head by a rogue piece of lumber. Still, Percy swam towards them and gathered everyone together. Nice going there, war girl, Percy scolded. You made him destroy our only ticket out of here. Now, what are we gonna do? Clarice blushed in embarrassment and looked away. Okay, sorry. I got too cocky and taunted him too much. There. You happy now? Of course not. Why would I? Percy yelled back. Okay, guys. Calm down. I'm sure there's another way we could get back to the mainland. Naruto tried to reason. Naruto's right. If we could just think of another way to get out of here. Annabeth backed him up. Rainbow, Tyson muttered softly. As Tyson said that, an epiphany dawned on Percy. Tyson. You're a genius. What are you talking about? Clarice inquired. Percy closed his eyes and concentrated. Immediately, shapes shimmered in the darkness below, 4 beautiful horses adorned with fish tails, galloping upward faster than dolphins. The fish horses glanced in the demigod's direction and seemed to read their thoughts. Hippocampi, Naruto said in wonder. There may have been weird animals and even talking summoning animals back in his home world, but he has never seen anything like this. I thought I was surprised when I saw Grover's hairy legs. But you were completely calm back then, Percy said. I mean, it was different from reading them in the books, but still we were being chased back then. That wasn't the time for noticing Grover's hairy legs. Naruto reasoned. Could you please stop talking about my legs? Grover asked. Right, sorry. Percy and Naruto apologized. The colorful fish horses each moved to the demigods and allowed them to grab hold of their colorful manies. But there are only 4 of them. Naruto and Annabeth voiced their concern both at the same time. Sorry guys, Percy apologized. Rainbow's friend got sick for some reason. Yeah, so I heard, Naruto grumbled softly. What about us? Annabeth asked. The horse in front of Naruto and Annabeth whinnied. Yeah, I understand you can carry us both, Naruto answered. But still. Come on guys, Clarice said. Couldn't you just suck it up just for a while? Clarice is right, Grover agreed. Just till we get back to the mainland. Naruto and Annabeth looked at each other. With both of them with a tinge of red on his cheeks, they both relented. Fine. Chapter 13, A Warm Welcome. Naruto's eyes slowly opened. For some reason, there was snickering coming from somewhere. Noisy, Naruto grumbled. Trying to sleep here. He hugged his pillow tighter, trying his best to return to his slumber. His pillow snuggled closer to his person. His pillow let out a little groan. Wait, a sudden realization hit him. I'm not in my room. I don't have a pillow right now. Naruto's eyes flung open. The first thing he saw was the setting sun behind a city skyline. There was a beachside highway lined with palm trees, storefronts glowing with red and blue neon, a harbor filled with sailboats and cruise ships. Then, he looked down. He saw Annabeth snuggled into him. She too was slowly waking up from the shinobi's movements. She slowly turned around. The girl's gray eyes met Naruto's blue. She, then, realized who she was snuggling with. With comedic timing, both of their faces turned cherry red as they moved as far away as possible while sitting on the hippocampus. This turned the snickering into full-blown laughter. They both looked at where the laughter was coming from. It was Grover and Clarice. It was a shame you both woke up. Grover teased. You were both so sweet. Too bad it's dangerous for demigods to bring phones, Clarice added to the flame. If I did have one me. Shut up. Shut up, Dateba yo. The four demigods looked at Naruto oddly for the language he just spoke, but ultimately he and Annabeth were teased even more. Their face got redder than before, fueling their teasing. Good thing for them, Percy had to break them apart. He sent a small wave towards them, dousing them in water. Hey! All four of them protested. I hate to break that up, Percy's voice seemed relieved rather than annoyed. But the hippocampi won't take us any further. True to the son of Poseidon's words, their fishy friends had slowed down and were whinnying and swimming in circles, sniffing the water. They didn't look happy. One of them sneezed. Even Clarice could tell what they were thinking. Yeah, according to them, there's too much pollution, Grover translated. I understand, Naruto nodded. But, where are we anyway? We're in Miami, Percy answered. But that's 1,000 miles from home. Annabeth exclaimed. We'll have to worry about that later, Clarice said. It's gonna be a long swim to land. None of them was too thrilled about swimming back to shore. Nonetheless, they thanked Rainbow and his friends for the ride. Tyson cried a little, he's gotten really close to Rainbow. He unfastened the makeshift saddle pack he'd made, which contained his toolkit and a couple of other things he'd salvaged from the CSS Birmingham wreck. He hugged Rainbow around the neck, gave him a soggy mango he'd picked up on the island, and said goodbye. They waved goodbye as they watched the hippocami's white manes disappeared underwater. After that, they began their long swim to shore. Halfway there, Naruto wanted to water walk all the way back. Much to everyone else's dismay, Annabeth convinced the other blonde to take her with him, much to the envy of the three remaining kids. Fortunately for them, Naruto had the ability to create shadow clones, so he could avoid the favoritism. The last leg of the once they were on land, they wandered along the cruise line docks, pushing through crowds of people arriving for vacations. Porters bustled around with carts of luggage. Taxi drivers yelled at each other in Spanish and tried to cut in line for customers. As they traversed the mortal world, the mist began to do its job. Tyson's single eye blurred. Grover had to put on his cap and sneakers, since the mist couldn't fully hide his horns. Even the fleece had transformed from a sheepskin to a red and gold high school leather jacket with a large glittery omega on the pocket. Once they found the nearest newspaper box. They checked the date from the local newspaper, the Miami Herald. It was the 16th of June. An aura of dread washed over the quest-goers. We've been away from camp for 10 days. Annabeth cursed. What? What are you talking about? Clarice asked. That's impossible. Naruto shook his head. You know, after being stuck in the Lotus Hotel for 5 days, I'm not that surprised anymore. I agree, Percy added his 2 cents. Thalia's tree must be almost dead, Grover wailed. We have to get the fleece back tonight. Clarice slumped down on the pavement in defeat. How are we supposed to do that? Her voice trembled. We're hundreds of miles away. No money. No ride. Her head snapped to a particular son of Poseidon. Jackson. This is your fault. If you haven't interfered. Naruto and Grover fully expected Percy to argue back, but what happened next shocked the both of them. Percy took the fleece from Tyson and handed it to Clarice, shocking even her. Here. I'm sorry. What? Naruto, Annabeth, and Grover yelled in surprise. Percy not picking a fight? That's new. Annabeth commented. What's gotten into you, Percy? Grover asked. After all we've been through, I don't want to pick another fight. Percy calmly answered. Wow, that's really mature of you, Percy. Naruto praised. Clarice narrowed her eyes, racking her brain for any trickery the son of Poseidon might be pulling on her. Relax, I really am giving the fleece to you, Percy said, knowing what the daughter of Ares was thinking. This is your and Naruto's quest, it's only proper that one of you complete it. That's nice and all, but there's still the problem of going home. Clarice stated. Percy turned to Naruto. Can I borrow some money? Naruto immediately realized what Percy was planning and unsealed a dense roll of cash and handed it to Clarice. It's for the quest, you don't have to pay it back anymore. Thanks, Naruto. Percy said as he took the money and handed it over to Clarice. This is a lot of money. Are you sure? Clarice asked. It's okay. Knock yourself out. Get yourself a first-class ticket and some food on the way. Naruto answered. Where did you get it anyway? From the Lotus Hotel, I won it from the poker table. Clarice's mouth fell open at what Naruto said. Is that even legal? Of course not, but I have my ways, the blonde shinobi answered. Enough questions. You better get home and save camp. Right. Clarice nodded and hailed a taxi. Soon, she was on her way. The other demigods turned to look at the son of Poseidon. Naruto was the first to speak. How did you know about the prophecy? I don't remember telling you guys about it. Oh, I really don't know about the prophecy. I just figured she had some daddy issues when Ares stormed the ship. Percy explained his side. You and me both, knowing Ares. Naruto nodded. Not to mention, you guys humiliating him last year. Grover completed the thought. Still, that was really big of you, Percy. Annabeth praised. Well, unlike what you guys think, I don't always pick fights. I pick the high road sometimes. Percy answered. Yosh. Naruto celebrated. Now that we pretty much completed the quest, why don't we all get a bite to eat? Do you think it's okay? Grover worried about taking the detour. Naruto waved him off. It's fine. Clarice is on her way to camp anyway. And it's going to take a day or more for us to get home, so why not enjoy Miami while we're here? Right, Percy. I guess so. After all, I am a little hungry. Percy answered. What about you, Annie? Naruto asked. The only girl in the group sighed. I suppose. What are we waiting for then? Let's. The excitement on Naruto's face disappeared. The blonde's expression turned serious. He drew a weapon, prompting his teammates to draw their own weapons. The puppy that was snoring in Grover's arms since they arrived even woke up and growled. What's wrong, Naruto? Grover asked nervously. You think you can hide from me? Naruto raised his voice. A few seconds later, Luke revealed himself from the crowd, slow clapping. He still looked menacing as ever with the scar under his eye. Flanking him at either side were two Bearman thugs, which was the first that Naruto and Grover had seen of them, but it looked like Percy and Annabeth already had a run-in with them. The thugs looked like twins, but they weren't human. They stood about 8 feet tall and wore only blue jeans. They weren't wearing any shirts. Instead, their enormous chests were shag-carpeted with thick brown fur. They had claws for fingernails, feet like paws. Their noses were snout-like, and their teeth were all pointed canines. I could never sneak up you, Naruto? Welcome back to the States, cousins. Luke greeted. What do you want, Luke? Percy growled. Well, I'm here to extend my hospitality, of course. After all, you just came from a quest. Luke said. Cut the crap, Luke. Naruto snapped. What are you really after? I guess I should expect that from you. You would see through the lies. Percy shrugged. Yeah, you don't need to be a genius to see through your bullshit. The blonde boy shot him down. Geez, watch your language, Naruto. Luke clicked his tongue. Is that how you talk to your mother? Why you? Naruto's grip on his weapon tightened. A dark aura was looming over Naruto. Fear washed over Luke and even over the shinobi's allies. Annabeth placed a hand on the teen from another land. The blonde boy's anger subsided. He turned and gave Annabeth a thankful look. So, you're going your true colors, huh? Luke said. Enough, Luke. Annabeth scolded. Now tell us, what do you really want? The fleece, Luke stated. Where is it? It's not here, Grover answered him. Grover, how are you, old friend? Are you taking a break from your quest? Luke greeted him before he continued his interrogation. Just give me the fleece and you can return to your little nature quest. Blah ha ha. Some old friend you are. Grover bleated out a laugh. Are you blind or are you just plain dumb? It's not with us. Yeah, Luke. It's probably at the airport right now. Percy added. What did you say? Luke asked, but his voice was on the brink of entering rage. Heh, must be hard of hearing too. Naruto and Grover high-fived. No, it can't be. I was sure Percy would. Luke couldn't believe what he heard. Well, you thought wrong. Percy yelled. The son of Hermes' face started to turn red in anger. Agrius. Orius. B-Boss. The two bear man thugs squeaked as Luke called their names. Take our guests back to the ship. Luke ordered. You think we'll let you? Said Naruto. We have already anticipated that there will be some resistance. We have contingencies. Luke grinned. As if on cue, snakes shot out of the ground and wrapped the four demigods tightly. It was a good thing, though, that the puppy was able to jump out of Grover's arms. This is... Hello, Naruto-kun. A venomous voice sounded from behind the demigods. That voice. Naruto's eyes widened. What are you doing here? Orochimaru emerged from one of the snake mouths. They came to me to search for people to bolster their ranks. I gladly agreed in exchange for power. And I must say they are treating us well on the ship. He walked past the demigods and turned to face them. The brave little puppy stood her ground despite the odds stacked against them. Na Naruto, who is this? Annabeth asked. Well, I see you have made some friends during your time here. Orochimaru said as he traced a kunai over the girl's face. Let us go now, Orochimaru. And while you're at it, give back Sasuke. Naruto growled. You're not in the position to make any demands here, Naruto-kun. He traced the kunai over the faces of his other friends. It would be a shame if any of your friends would get hurt. Naruto knew that he could get out of the snake's bindings, but that would leave his friends still trapped with the snake man awfully close to them with a knife. There was also the unknown factor of how many more enemies are within the vicinity. After a few seconds of mulling it over, he finally decided to surrender. Fine, take us to your stupid ship. Great. Now that you've been captured, let us get to the ship. I have a fleece to catch. Luke said. Inside the Princess Andromeda. The group of demigods was herded to a massive cruise ship. Its hull was at least 10 stories tall. The massive vessel was topped with another dozen levels of decks with balconies and portholes. The ship's name was painted just above the bowline in black letters, lit with a spotlight. It took me a few seconds to decipher it, Princess Andromeda. Attached to the bow was a huge masthead, a 3-story tall woman wearing a white Greek chiton, sculpted to look as if she were chained to the front of the ship. She was young and beautiful, with flowing black hair, but her expression was one of absolute terror. This reminded Grover and Naruto of the myth about the ship's namesake. The lady was chained to a rock by her own parents as a sacrifice to a sea monster. Perseus, the one in the story, not the Perseus that was with them, managed to save her just in time with a severed Medusa. So anyway, they were thrown onto an aft deck in front of a swimming pool with sparkling fountains that sprayed into the air. Luke's army surrounded them. They ranged from snake people, Laestrygonian giants, a pale-skinned man that looks like he is after little kids, and demigods in battle armor. All of them gathered to watch the prisoners. "I never would have thought that you would give the fleece to Clarisse and send her off on ahead," Luke said as they made it to the deck. "No matter, this is just a minor inconvenience to our plans." He turned to one of the Bearman thugs. "Agrias, prepare my steed." "All right." Despite the big guy's size, he was scared of Luke for some reason. He rushed below deck, stumbling over himself, probably out of fear. As he waited for the ride, the son of Hermes paced in front of the swimming pool. His current demeanor caused unrest over his ranks. Naruto looked around with a cold and calculating gaze, thinking of a plan to get out. Percy and Naruto gazes met. Percy noticed the familiar gleam in the eyes of Naruto, like he was planning to do something devious. You do not live with Naruto in the Yansei Academy dorm room without learning to read his expressions with a single glance. "So Luke, clever plan letting us find the fleece for you," Naruto began. "Clever, but you didn't think about all bases." "I know what you are doing, Naruto. There is no one coming to save you. So don't dream on it," Luke said. "Why do you think I am stalling for time?" Naruto retorted. "Maybe I just wanted to make small talk to my old friend." "Shut it, Naruto." As we were having an exchange, Percy rammed into Luke, surprising even him. A shining object flew out coming from Percy's hand and magically landed on the pool's water. Luke's troops stepped forward to defend their captain, but the son of Hermes stopped them. "Stop. We need them alive," he ordered. When both of them stood up, Luke punched Percy in the stomach, causing him to cough and gasp for air. "Brother, no!" Tyson yelled in worry. Grover and Annabeth had to hold the Cyclops back from charging headfirst into Luke's army. "Nice try there, cuss. As much as I would like to kill you, I have to keep you alive," Luke said. After a fit of coughing from the son of Poseidon, he managed, "You damn traitor. Cough, you tricked the whole of us, even Dionysus at Camp Half-Blood." Light shimmered behind Luke, so they needed to keep everyone's attention on them. Naruto stepped forward. "Great job, Percy. I'll take it from here," Naruto thought before he began. Luke, you've stooped so low to join up with them, and now you've poisoned Thalia's tree. You are not in the position for an interrogation like this, Naruto, not when you are at our mercy. But, I will indulge you," Luke said. "Why not poison Thalia's tree? It's to further Cronus' cause, so I gladly did it. Not even that old centaur, Chiron, was able to save it. And now, Chiron is taking the blame for something you did," I replied. "Ha! They all know he didn't have the guts to do it, and yet here we are." "Guts? You call that guts? Betraying the camp. Endangering your friends. You don't understand our plans one bit. I was going to let you walk with the fleece once we were done with it. Stop with the bullshit. Why would we believe that you would let us go once you were done using it? Geez, Naruto, language, much. We only needed it to speed up Cronus' mending process by tenfold. This little stunt of yours did not stop us completely. You've only delayed us." Naruto smirked. "Thank you for the monologue, Mr. Villain. Do you have any other words to tell our audience?" His eyes narrowed. Everyone else did the same. They gasped and stumbled back. Above the pool, shimmering in the rainbow mist, was an iris message vision of Mr. D, our camp director, Tantalus, Chiron's replacement, and our brothers and sisters at camp enjoying their dinner. They sat in stunned silence, watching the whole event unfold. "Well," said Dionysus dryly, "some unplanned dinner entertainment. Hi, Mr. D. I believe you have heard his confession. The poisoning wasn't Chiron's fault." Naruto greeted. "The iris message could be a trick," Tantalus suggested, but his attention was mostly on his cheeseburger, which he was trying to corner with both hands. "I fear not," Mr. D said, looking with distaste at Tantalus. It appears I shall have to reinstate Chiron as activities director. I suppose I do miss the old horse's pinnacle games. Tantalus grabbed the cheeseburger. It didn't bolt away from him. He lifted it from the plate and stared at it in amazement as if it were the largest diamond in the world. I got it. The activities director cackled. We are no longer in need of your services, Tantalus, Mr. D announced. Tantalus looked stunned. What? But you may return to the underworld. You are dismissed. No. But no. The campers exploded into cheering as the replacement activities director was sent back to the underworld. Luke bellowed in rage as he slashed his sword through the fountain, breaking it, causing the iris message to dissolve. He sent Naruto a murderous look. I don't know why Cronus is hell-bent on trying to get you on our side, Luke said, his voice was shaking with rage. It's too bad we can't kill you. But I'm sure he would understand if I break every bone in your body. Orius. Oh, you're going to let your lackeys do the dirty work for you? Man, I thought you had some balls, but I guess I was wrong. Naruto taunted. What difference does it make? You're tied up, right now. Luke shook his head. I hate to burst your bubble, but am I tied up? A look of shock replaced Luke's smug expression. The Naruto in front of him dispelled, leaving a log that was tied up with snakes. As the son of Hermes watched the event unfold, several shuriken flew from the crowd of Luke's army that was headed straight for him. Fortunately for him, he was able to deflect most of them with his sword. Poof. The real Naruto revealed himself from among the crowd disguised as one of the rogue demigods. He had a smirk plastered on his face, and his right hand was in a half-ram seal. But how? Orochimaru said with a huge shock on his face. You underestimate me, Orochimaru, Naruto said. You still treat me like that brat you knocked out in the Chunin exam. Luke managed to recover. No matter. Your friends are all tied up, and there is only one of you. Naruto smirked as he raised his hands to form his signature hand seal. You forget that I am a one-man army. You think I'll let you? Orochimaru yelled as his whole upper body elongated to get closer and the Kusanagi sword came out of his mouth ready to stab him. Shit. Naruto cursed as he produced a kunai from his sleeve to knock the sword away from his person. With his other hand, he formed a Rasengan and slammed into Orochimaru's body. The Snake Sunin yelled in pain from the effects of the attack. Stop the act, Orochimaru, Naruto said. I know you do that gross thing that you always do. Chilling laughter came from Orochimaru's body. The other demigods watched in horror and disgust as the mouth opened wide as he forced his way out of the small opening. I can't fool you anymore, Naruto-kun. Stay out this, you dem snake. It is Luke that I am after. Naruto ordered. He then turned to the ship's captain. Or are too chicken to face me? As if on cue, Agrias burst onto the deck struggling to tame a flying horse. It was a pure black Pegasus with wings like a giant raven. The mighty animal bucked and whinnied. She was calling Agrias and Luke some names so bad Chiron would have washed her muzzle out with saddle soap. Sir. Agrias called, dodging a Pegasus hoof. Your steed is ready. Luke didn't acknowledge the Bearman thug's words. He just kept an eye on Naruto the whole time. Just as I told Percy last summer, you can't bait me into a fight, Luke said. Naruto smirked. You never could beat me, even back at camp. I understand you're just trying to save face from your troops. Luke had no choice. Backing down would make him look weak in front of his troops. Fighting Naruto would make him lose valuable time chasing after Clarice. He still said nothing, but it looked like he wanted to preserve his image to his army. He whistled to one of his men, who threw him a round leather and bronze shield. Hey, at least make the fight equal. Annabeth pleaded. Sorry, Annabeth. You bring your own equipment to this party. He said. Oh cool, in that case. Naruto walked towards his friends to free Percy who was still on his knee. You okay to fight? The Naruto clone asked. Percy nodded with a determined expression. Okay, I trust you. Henge. Naruto transformed into a shield, like one of those in Kemp Half-Blood. Percy picked up the shield, and then readied his blade. I'm going to pay you back for that punch. The son of Poseidon pointed his sword at the son of Hermes. Now, let's dance. Chapter 14, The Cavalry Arrives. The two teens stood across the aft deck, each with a sword and shield in hand. Around them, the horde of monsters watched on as their captain got ready to fight the son of Poseidon. Luke gave out a dark chuckle. You are never getting off this boat alive. Upon hearing the older teen's words, Percy began doubting himself. He remembered Chiron's words to him when he made it to camp that year. He gulped. He knew Luke was a better swordsman than he was, even back when they were at camp. He hadn't had any sword practice since last year, his first year at camp. It was that moment he knew he FCKD up. But then, Naruto's words echoed in his mind. I trust you, said the blonde's voice. Percy took a deep breath. Time seemed to slow down as one droplet fell from the broken fountain's opening. The silence was deafening. Not even Luke's horde dared to make a sound as the two warriors face off. Just as the droplet made an audible sound, the two charged. Luke wanted to finish this quickly. He lunged at Percy, expecting him to block with his shield, to which the son of Poseidon did. Luke thought that stab to the shield would dispel the transformation and turn Naruto back to normal, but the shield held, confusing the son of Hermes. Percy smirked and counterattacked with Riptide. The son of Hermes quickly got over his confusion and knocked away Percy's sword. Not bad, Luke said. But not good enough. He attacked again. This time, it was a swipe to the head. Percy parried and returned with a thrust. Luke sidestepped easily. Once again, Luke lunged at him. Percy jumped backward, making him plunge into the pool. Strength surged through Percy's body. He spun underwater, creating a large funnel cloud. He blasted out of the deep end of the pool behind Luke. The force of the water left him down on the ground, spluttering and blinded. The son of Poseidon quickly struck, but the older teen parried his strike with his sword. Luke spun to knock down Percy, but the latter jumped to avoid his feet. On the way down, he tried to slam his blade on Luke's head. The older teen barely managed to raise his shield up to block with its outer ring. With Percy's enhanced strength from the water, he managed to shave a part of Luke's shield away. Luke threw his broken shield at the younger demigod, forcing him to hide behind his shield. After that, he lunged forward, jabbing his sword on Percy's thigh. Despite the pain, Percy was able to slam the shield on his opponent's sword hand, making him yell in pain and release his sword. Immediately after that, he slammed his shield on Luke, making him fly back to the pool. The son of Poseidon fell to his knee. After that, the adrenaline may have masked the pain of his wound, but his leg was losing its strength to hold the rest of his body up. Luke pulled himself out of the water. That was some lucky shot. You're just going to run to your daddy as always. We have no use for you, Luke said as he squeezed his clothes dry. There are always other demigods to get to our side. He turned to his horde. Boys, it's dinner time. Bursts of cheers erupted from the army as they began to charge forward. The demigods closed their eyes as they resigned to their fate. A puff of smoke came from the shield beside Percy, revealing Naruto unscathed from the slashes and stabs Percy blocked from his opponent earlier. It doesn't end like this. Naruto yelled in defiance. He charged forward, intercepting Orochimaru. Their blades met, neither of them was giving an inch to the other. The horde forged forward past the two shinobi, but a single arrow whizzed past the demigods' heads and planted itself in front of the monster leading the charge. For a split second, Luke's guards were too stunned to do anything except watch the snake woman pick up the arrow to study it. Looking forward, they saw that their meals were still bound. It surely didn't belong to any of them. She looked up to where she thought it came from. Another arrow glinted in the setting sun, leading a volley of arrows headed towards the monsters. Naruto sensed the cavalry coming, so he slid his kunai across the Kusanagi blade, pushing it away from his body, so he had room to kick the villain away. He grabbed Percy and joined their friends. Those with shields raised them to defend themselves. Those without shields had arrows sprouting off of them. A few got knocked with arrows that had a boxing glove on where the point would be. A wild chorus of war cries and hooves thundering against metal boomed from out of nowhere. A dozen centaurs charged out of the main stairwell. Ponies! Tyson cried with delight. Even our heroes' minds went blank as they struggled to process what they were seeing. Chiron, their favorite activities director, was among the crowd. They watched the other centaurs, Chiron's relatives. They were nothing like him. There were centaurs with black Arabian stallion bodies, others had gold palomino coats. Still, others with orange and white spots like paint horses. In contrast to Chiron, they were what you expected to see during sporting events, not on a cruise ship. One had his face painted like a Comanche warrior and was waving a large orange styrofoam hand making a big number 1. Another was bare-chested and painted entirely green. A third had googly eyeglasses with the eyeballs bouncing around on slinky coils, and one of those baseball caps with soda can and straw attachments on either side. Some wore brightly colored t-shirts with day-glow letters that read Party Ponies, South Florida Chapter. They were armed with a variety of weapons. There were bows, baseball bats, and paintball guns. They exploded onto the deck with such ferocity and color that for a moment even Luke was stunned. But the thing is, you wouldn't know if they were to celebrate or fight. Apparently, they were here for both. Luke took that moment to raise his sword and join the fray, but he didn't get to attack. One of the centaurs fired another of the custom-made arrows at Luke, knocking him back into the pool. Not again, Luke mumbled to himself as he sank. Without their leader, those who survived the earlier volley of arrows scattered. It was every man, or monster, to himself. Their confusion turned to fear as Luke's forces stumbled over themselves getting away. Chiron galloped over to the demigods. With a dagger, he freed Annabeth, Grover, and Tyson from their bindings. Annabeth immediately rushed forward to hug the centaur. "Chiron! You came for us," she said. "I'm glad to see you too, child, but this isn't the place for us to talk," Chiron answered. "But we got the upper hand," Percy said. "He's right, Perse," Naruto answered. "They'll have reinforcements here soon." Luke once again crawled out of the pool. "Attack, you fools!" he ordered his troops. As soon as he said that, an alarm from somewhere below deck thrummed. Another wave of troops came to aid the ones that were being swamped by the centaurs. The element of surprise was now gone. Pretty soon Chiron's raid party would be overwhelmed by the sheer number of Luke's force. "Withdraw, brethren!" Chiron yelled. Chiron scooped up Annabeth and Grover, while the Palomino centaur allowed Tyson to climb on its back. He bucked under the Cyclops' weight, making him complain. The face-painted centaur walked over to Naruto to pick him up, but he refused. "No, thanks. I got a ride of my own." He raised his hands to form his some hand signs, stopping at the sign for a ram. "Kuchi Yase, Yatai Kyuzashi no Jutsu." For a second, nothing happened. The centaur was about to scoop Naruto off the ground, but... Dude, quit stalling. He didn't get to finish his statement as a huge puff of smoke appeared over the ship. A massive toad taller than buildings and trees around them appeared out of nowhere. He has brown skin tone and yellow eyes with gray markings around them and two distinct, circular markings on his shoulders. He carried two huge katanas on his back and an orange sash was tied around his stomach. Before the toad could land on the ship, a huge wave washed over, causing the ship to shift to the side. The wave felt different this time. It didn't feel like the times Percy controlled the water. "What the hell?" Naruto yelled as he watched his attack miss the ship entirely. This isn't Percy." "Sorry dude, but we gotta go," the face-painted centaur urged. "Fine," Naruto grit his teeth. "I have one more trick up my sleeve. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." A whole battalion of clones appeared around Naruto in the ship. They were all holding pieces of paper in hand, each of them had the kanji for exploded written over it. "Dude, I don't know what you're planning, but I can't carry all of you at once," the centaur complained. "No, they'll hold the others off," Naruto explained. "Now, let's go." "Get on then," the centaur ordered. Naruto refused once again. "You go on ahead, I have my own ride." Luke's warriors began organizing themselves into a phalanx formation, as soon as the centaurs were ready to retreat. They fearlessly leaped over the railings as if they were on steeplechase and not 10 stories up the ground. The demigods riding the centaurs feared for their lives as they plummeted down to the docks below. They let out a sigh of relief when the centaurs hit the asphalt with hardly a jolt and galloped off. Back on the ship, Naruto and his battalion of clones were left staring down Luke's steadily growing army. Scatter! Naruto ordered his clones. In a blur of orange, Naruto's clones jumped away in different directions, placing the sheets of paper over the ship. Luke stood in front of his team, glaring at the lone Naruto in front of him. "Brave of you to stay behind," Luke taunted. "Not for long, though," Naruto retorted. He turned to the toad he summoned. "Gamahiro-san. Let's go." With a single leap, the massive toad miles away from the ship, but before they could get out of range, he raised his hand in a half-ram seal. Back in the Princess Andromeda. "Sir," a demigod walked up to Luke. "Shall we give chase?" Luke shook his head. "We shall leave today's battle as a draw. They have taken the bait. Soon, we will control the prophecy for ourselves." "Your master plans in roundabout ways," Orochimaru hissed as he stood beside the captain of the ship. "Are you starting to doubt him now?" Luke raised an eyebrow. The Snake Sunin shook his head. "I'm just commenting on the fact." Sasuke walked out into the aft deck, carried a lot of the explosive tags in hand. "Your troops' instincts are dull. They ignored all these tags plastered on the ship like they were there before," he said. If I may ask, what harm could these pieces of paper do?" the demigod from Luke's troops asked. As soon as he asked that question, several explosions came from different parts of the ship. Everyone on the deck raised their arms to protect themselves from the discharge of conflagration all around them. Luckily for them, the whole ship and everyone in it glowed sea green. "This is," Luke said as he slowly lowered his hands. "It's you." A tall muscular man with a long green beard and horns of a bull approached Luke and Orochimaru. "You speak of the luck of that upstart's spawn, son of Hermes, when you, yourself, are lucky to be alive if I haven't intervened." Centaur Camp, South Florida. The centaurs stopped in a trailer park at the edge of a lake. The trailers weren't any ordinary trailers. They were custom-made to fit their horse bodies. They were tricked out with televisions, mini refrigerators, and mosquito netting. As soon as they arrived, Annabeth immediately jumped down and wrapped her teacher in a tight hug. A loud slamming sound broke them from their embrace. They turned to see two centaurs with crazy looks on their faces staggering towards opposite directions. Annabeth took this moment to look around. Her spirits dropped when she noticed the distinct lack of a certain orange-loving demigod. "Where's Naruto?" she asked. "With Naruto." Gamahiro landed several miles away from the huge explosion that. "So, where to, Naruto?" he asked. "We need to follow the centaurs to where they're going," Naruto answered. "Could you catch up to them?" "Child's play," he yelled as he prepared to jump. Before he could do so, Naruto stopped him. "Wait. Could we stop by first to grab a bite to eat?" The huge toad sighed. "Fine. Make it quick." "Thanks, Gamahiro-san. I won't take long." The toad waited for quite a long time. He was starting to get impatient, not knowing that lines were getting fairly long. He was starting to get impatient when Naruto had already arrived. "What took you so long, Gaki?" Gamahiro asked. "Sorry, there are a lot of people, so I had to look for a while." Naruto rubbed the back of his head. The massive toad sighed. Okay, get on." Back at the centaur camp. Panic started to swell among the demigods group. They couldn't have lost the leader of their quest, not after coming this far. Questions were then thrown around as they wondered where he went. "Didn't he ride with you?" Percy asked his half-brother. "I did not see," Tyson shook his head. As they prepared to go back, a face-painted centaur walked towards them. "Do you mean the blonde dude?" "Where did he go?" she demanded. "He stayed behind with those paper thingies," the centaur answered. "Wait," Percy said, realizing what those papers meant. "You don't mean..." "What? What do those papers do?" Annabeth demanded. "Those are paper bombs," Percy answered. "Dude, how bad could a bunch of paper be?" the centaur asked, not really understanding what was going on. "Those aren't any ordinary paper," it was Grover who answered. An explosion is sealed inside those papers. And how do you know all of this? Annabeth asked. Naruto used to use them all the time for pranks back at Yansei, though he modified them so they were harmless. So if he's using the real deal now? No. He couldn't have. Her voice trailed off. A veil of silence draped over the group as they realized what he intended to do. But they didn't have time to mourn as a tremor shook the ground. Earthquake. The centaurs panicked and galloped around. The horsemen panicked, even more. A massive brown toad landed on the lake. Standing on top it was the familiar blonde-haired shinobi the group of demigods all know and love. He seemed to talk to the massive toad. With a giant puff of smoke, the toad disappeared without a trace, causing the blonde to fall from a lot of stories high above the ground. The centaurs expected him to sink into the water of the lake, but their expectations were shattered when he landed nimbly on the surface of the water. The blonde walked past, dumbfounded looks on their faces. "What's up, Chiron?" Naruto greeted the immortal centaur. "I heard you're back as activities director." "Hello, Naruto. I'm glad to see you're alright. I have you to thank for the reinstatement of my position." "Well, I did promise that we would clear your name," Naruto answered. During their exchange, Annabeth walked up to Naruto with her arms crossed and an irritated look on her face. She cleared her throat to get Naruto's attention. "That was risky, you herd-headed idiot." Annabeth scolded. "Hey, Annabeth." Naruto gave off a nervous chuckle as he tried to appease his fellow blonde. "You're blooming today. Did you do something with your hair?" "Flattery won't help you, Naruto. Besides, you were with me the whole day. You know I had no time to fix it since we arrived at Miami." Annabeth answered. Naruto started to back away, but Annabeth lunged at him and caught the blonde to give her a piece of her mind. He wasn't too mad at Naruto. He just made the daughter of Athena worried about him, that's all. Okay, Annabeth. I got it. But you do know I can handle myself, right?" "Yes, I know, but you can't blame me if I still worry about you." I know, Naruto said. "I'm always careful, you know." Percy decided that it was time to voice his opinions. "That's nice and all, but what about, but I'm curious." He turned to Chiron. "How do you know to find us in Miami?" "Advanced planning, my dear. I figured you would wash up near Miami if you made it out of the Sea of Monsters alive. Almost everything strange washes up near Miami." "Gee, thanks," Grover mumbled as he stroked their little puppy's head. "Oh no, Chiron said. I didn't mean that." "Oh, never mind, I am glad to see you, young satyr. We have to catch up on your travels so far. Anyway, I was able to eavesdrop on Naruto's iris message and trace the signal. I asked her to alert me to any important communications in this area. Once we found your signal, it was only a matter of time to rush to your aid. And as you saw, distance is basically non-existent to us. So what now?" Percy asked, his gaze directed towards his brother who was being taught by the centaurs to use a paintball machine. "Are we letting Luke and his troops get away with what they did?" Chiron knelt in front of Percy and started to treat his wounds. "I'm afraid this is a draw. Our forces were not enough to take their ship. Luke wasn't organized enough to pursue us. Not to mention the surprise I left for them," Naruto added. Chiron nodded. "Nobody won, Percy. But we got the fleece." Annabeth interjected. "We sent Clarice ahead to camp. We can count this as a win, right?" The immortal centaur ignored her question. Instead, he turned to face the demigods and said, "You are all true heroes. I commend you for a job well done on this quest. As soon as we tend to Percy's wounds, you must return to Camp Half-Blood. The others will carry you." "Are you coming too?" asked Percy, who was confused at how the centaur phrased his statement. "Oh, of course, my boy. I'll be relieved to get home." He turned to the rowdy centaurs and gave them a distasteful look. "My brethren here just do not appreciate the classics. Besides, I must have some words with Mr. D. There's the rest of the summer to plan. So much training to do. And I want to see, I'm curious about the fleece." Percy was silent, thinking about everything that happened. Even the commotion Tyson made over at the campfire. The lovable Cyclops let loose a barrage of blue projectile, sending one of the centaurs sending him flying into the lake. The centaur rose from the water grinning, covered in swamp muck and blue paint, and gave Tyson 2 thumbs up. Naruto watched them with an amused expression. "Naruto, Annabeth, Grover," Chiron said. "Perhaps you could supervise Tyson and my cousins before they can teach each other too many bad habits." "Sure, Chiron," Annabeth said and motioned her 2 friends to follow. "Come on, you two." "But I don't like paintball," Grover protested. Naruto took the puppy from the satyr's arms so Annabeth could drag him away. Naruto sat the little bundle of happiness on the ground and said, "You go and explore for a bit, 'kay girl? But don't go too far." The little puppy raced to the bushes and disappeared in the shrubbery. Naruto figured that she was going to relieve herself. Naruto hoped the centaurs wouldn't discover the landmines she might leave. After that, Naruto jogged to join Annabeth and Grover. "Anyone want some food?" Naruto said as he caught up to them. "I picked some up on the way before coming here." "I guess it wouldn't hurt," Annabeth said. "We didn't get a chance to eat with all that was going on." "So what did you get?" Naruto laid a scroll over at a table. He infused his chakra on the scroll. With a puff of smoke, a whole feast lay in front of them. The surprises never stopped coming for the horsemen as another unbelievable sight has happened right in front of them. Food, enough to feed the whole centaur camp twice over, was sprawled over the table. Naruto explained that it was a simple thank you for the centaurs rushing to their aid at the ship. He said that it was the least he could do for them. "Dude, we should come to help you more often." One of the centaurs cheered. The other centaurs cheered with him as they dug in. Everyone enjoyed their meal, to say the least. After Chiron and Percy were done with their conversation, they joined everyone at the mini-feast. When everyone was finished having their fill, they gathered around the campfire to share one last laugh before the team from Camp Half-Blood finally goes home. Camp Half-Blood. After declining a ride from the centaur on the ship, Naruto was curious about what it felt like to ride on one. He figured that it was like riding a horse, not that he had any experience riding one, but he was proven wrong. The trees and terrain around them blurred into the background as the centaurs picked up speed. Before he knew it, they arrived at the camp they call home. Upon their arrival, the centaurs were really anxious to meet their camp director. They were told that the god threw wild parties, but they were disappointed as soon as they saw him. He was in no mood to celebrate nor throw any parties as everyone in the camp gathered at the top of Half-Blood Hill. The camp had a rough 2 weeks. Without Naruto, Percy, and Clarice, a few of the camp's heavy hitters, they had a hard time holding off the waves of attacks from monsters and teams of shinobi who attacked with sound. With the defenses down, Luke must have taken the opportunity to attack. The campers were able to hold off each wave, but not without swamping the Apollo cabin with a whole lot of wounded. The moment Clarice draped the golden fleece on the lowest bough of the tree, the moonlight around them brightened, turning from gray to silver. Naruto, of course, was the first one who noticed this. A cool breeze rustled in the branches and rippled through the grass, all the way into the valley. The plants started to revert back to their original color. Everything else came into sharper focus: the glow of the fireflies down in the woods, the smell of the strawberry fields, the sound of the waves on the beach. It was like life was returning back to the camp, which it was. As the campers looked around watching the flora, everyone locked eyes with Naruto as he dismounted the centaur he was riding. I'll go now if I make you guys uncomfortable," Naruto said as he turned around to go to his cabin. "Wait!" Connor called out from the crowd. Naruto froze on his spot. "Come here, man," Lee Fletcher from the Apollo cabin said. "This wouldn't happen if it weren't for you guys." But, Naruto was at a loss for words. "Don't you hate me?" "Why would we hate you?" Lee answered. "Everyone in the world sees us demigods as problem kids." Katie continued. "We may have not suffered as much as you, but we understand where you're coming from even just a bit." "That's what I told you," Annabeth added. Naruto's hair shadowed his eyes as tears started to well from them. You guys. So, what are you waiting for?" Lee said. "Come on here." Naruto slowly walked over to the crowd. A round of cheers erupted from the demigods as Naruto drew closer. He and Clarice were carried to the amphitheater where they were honored with laurel wreaths. Celebrations started around the campfire after that. Everyone was stuffed, to say the least, but that didn't stop them from roasting s'mores later that night. The regularly scheduled Apollo Cabin concert was replaced by the Stahl brothers' tale of the demonic breakfast pastries. The tale of the titular breakfast pastry devouring an evil king. The campers had a sneaking suspicion that the story was a little too close to home. For the first time since the tree was poisoned, the camp was in high spirits. Smiles were seen from each camper that night. For tonight at least, they would forget about their worries and party till curfew because everyone deserved this celebration. Chapter 15, Chariot Death Race 2, Without the Death. Are you feeling better? Naruto asked a raven-haired girl. Thalia nodded her head. You know, you are reckless trying to take on all those monsters by yourself. It was to protect my friends, you know. Naruto explained. His eyes examined the girl. Quite a bit has changed from the last time the blonde seen his friend. The color had returned to her face. Her hair had a few streaks of yellow blonde hair were on the top of her head and something like a birthmark on her face could be seen. You look different somehow. Naruto commented. Oh, you mean these? Thalia gestured towards the new additions. These started to appear after you left for the quest. It's probably because you shared so much of your energy with me. That's probably why, Naruto nodded. They, look good on you though. He looked away as he said that. Thalia blushed, but a smile crept its way to her lips. Really? You think I can pull these off? Yeah. Of course. I did after all, what's to stop you? Naruto explained. Well, I guess I can learn to love my new look. Thalia said. Naruto grinned. That's the spirit. Their conversation was cut short when the conch horn blasted through the morning. You better go, Thalia said. Everyone will be looking for you. Do I have to? Naruto complained, but his stomach was showing otherwise. Thalia laughed at his expense. All right, but I will come back, you know that right? Naruto relented. Yes, I know. That was the last thing that was said before Naruto vanished from Thalia's dimension back to the real world. When he was gone, Thalia's form flickered, like something was pulling her out, but her form stabilized quickly a few seconds later. Back outside. It was the next day already. The camp as demigods were used to was slowly coming back. Sure, there were some demolished buildings from the countless attacks their home had to endure during the quest, but that was a moot point right now. The party ponies bade farewell to everyone as they would be returning to South Florida. They had certainly livened the camp up with their presence, especially during the victory party. Everything wasn't too happy though. Naruto explained to Chiron and to the Athena cabin the body of the demigod he found in the Sea of Monsters. Everyone immediately recognized him as Jake. They remembered that Jake was the one who disappeared one night without a word from anybody. Funeral rites were held for him, and he was given a proper burial. After that, Chiron announced that the chariot races would continue as scheduled. Everyone thought that considering its history, the activities director would definitely discontinue the game. He did reiterate though that there would be extra precautions to ensure the safety of the racers and the audience, much to the delight of the Apollo cabin. So, for the next few days, the campers busied themselves with preparing their chariots. Percy had a problem. Tyson didn't want to join this time after what happened when they were last on the chariot, so he was left alone on his team. Naruto decided to let Annabeth partner with him so that he would have a teammate. He didn't want to hog all the process. Plus, he wasn't in the mood to compete after what happened in the first night back. Flashback. Naruto lay in his bed staring at the ceiling. Held within his hands was the coin he found. His grip tightened as he thought of it. I hope the camp has books so I can find out more about this. He said to himself as he closed his eyes to sleep. As he drifted off to dreamland, the background of his dreamscape flickered with static like a television losing connection with the cable company. After that, he found himself in a library filled with books. Sifting through the shelves was beautiful, regal-looking woman whose hair was tied up in an elegant ponytail and her skin was tanned. She looked over to Naruto as if she finally sensed that he was already here. Gray eyes stared into his own. He immediately recognized it as the same color from one of his closest friends in camp along with her siblings. It was Lady Athena. Naruto bowed reverently. To what do I owe this audience? Naruto Uzumaki, Athena said. Your feats of bravery have spread throughout the godly world. There have been talks among the minor gods and goddesses of your exploits. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Well, I did have help from my friends. Athena nodded. Speaking of friends. I hear you're quite close with my daughter. No. It's not like that. It's just. Naruto waved his hands in front of him. Now, we can talk about that at a later date. Her voice turned serious. I presume you know why I called you here. Is it because of the coin? Naruto asked, his face adapting a serious expression. What's that about anyway? That information is not for you to know, son of Artemis. You have simply stumbled upon something you weren't supposed to. She explained. Is that so? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It is fine. I commend you though for not divulging this information to you friends to the quest. Well, I didn't think it was relevant at that time. And I expect you to keep what you know to yourself. I advise you not to pursue this any further. You will not find this information in any of the history books. Do we understand each other? Yes, ma'am. Well then, you have been warned. If you do otherwise, well, let's just say I am not a goddess you want to trifle with. Don't worry, Lady Athena. I never break my promises. Very good. Now run along now. But how? End of flashback. Well, that didn't stop him from helping with the camp repairs with his clones and helping Tyson pimp out their chariot. It was the least he could do to help out his friends. As if almost every day, the campers of Cabin 6 bombarded him with questions about their fallen brother. It was easier to answer them before Athena hijacked his dreams, but the days after that, it was harder to bite his teeth about a secret mission their mother was hiding from everyone. On the day of the race, everyone was buzzing about the chariot race. Naruto walked through the camp with the little puppy he named Luna. The little girl actually had become sort of a camp mascot. She was super friendly to everybody, but that's not what we're here to see today. There was a race today. So, there they were ready to race, almost the same way they did the first time with Tantalus. The charioteers and the people in the stand watched the skies nervously, half expecting to see Stymphalian birds gathering. But there wasn't any. The camp's shields were doing their job, making for a beautiful day to race. Tyson and Naruto greeted their prized racers on the track. The both of them looked proudly at their handiwork on the chariot. They really did it this time. You know, everyone's upping their game ever since they've known you weren't joining the race, Annabeth said. Oh, really? I asked. They must be really excited to race then. They sure are. I mean, look at the determination on their face. She gestured to the others. Don't you think that's because of the prize for the race? Naruto stated, causing everyone in their group to share a round of laughter. Are you sure you're okay not joining? Percy asked just to make sure. Nah, man. I'm good. I don't want to hog all the prizes. Naruto joked, though Percy had a sneaking suspicion that Naruto would win the race again if he were to join. Nice watch you got there, he commented, noticing the new addition to Percy's arm. He looked at his wrist. There lay a white and silver clock face attached to a black leather strap. It looked just like any other watch. Oh, this? Tyson gave it to me. He was working on it all summer, right, Tyson? Percy said. Tyson blushed, scratching his cheek. So, what does it do, big guy? Naruto asked. It's a surprise, Tyson said. Just hit the button on the side if you need help. Cool, can't wait to see what it does, Percy said. Say, Tyson. I know what you will tell me, Tyson said, looking ashamed. Poseidon did care for me after all. Well. He sent you to help me. Just what I asked for. Percy blinked. You asked Poseidon for me? For a friend, Tyson said, twisting his shirt in his hands. Young Cyclopes grow up alone on the streets, learn to make things out of scraps. Learn to survive. But that's so cruel. He shook his head earnestly. Makes us appreciate blessings, not be greedy and mean and fat like Polyphemus. But I got scared. Monsters chased me so much, clawed me sometimes. The scars on your back. A tear welled in his eye. Sphinx on 72nd Street. Big bully. I prayed to Daddy for help. Soon the people at Meriwether found me. Met you. Biggest blessing ever. Sorry I said Poseidon was mean. He sent me a brother. You're the best brother I could ever ask for, Percy answered. Naruto and Annabeth smiled at the exchange. See, Tyson. I told you he would come through, Naruto elbowed Tyson. It was a beautiful moment to behold. The two brothers finally acknowledging each other. But they didn't had time to savor the moment for long as Chiron slammed his hooves on the pavement signaling that the race was about to start. Go brother. You will win, Tyson said. Give him hell, Naruto said. Got it. Percy and Annabeth said at the same time. When Chiron gave the signal to start the race, the horses knew exactly what to do. The chariots shot down the racetrack. Charioteers held on tight as they eyed the other defenders, each waiting for anyone to make the first move. As they made the first turn, the Hermes chariot decided to attack first. It just so happened that the Ares chariot was the one beside them. Percy's chariot easily passed them both with the Apollo chariot not too far behind them. Annabeth threw a javelin to intercept a lead-weighted net that was fired towards them. This was immediately followed up by a javelin aimed at their chariot's wheels. The javelin shattered but not without destroying some of the spokes. The chariot lurched and wobbled, but it kept going. Although, the Apollo cabin caught up with them and were now neck and neck with them. The other chariots easily passed the Ares and Hermes chariots who were still locked in battle. The Apollo decided to attack Annabeth. He was a first-year camper but Naruto had to give it to him, he sure had guts. They clashed for a while, but in the end, Annabeth proved to be the better fighter. She managed to knock both campers out of their chariot. The horses went crazy riding towards the crowd. Campers scrambled for their lives to get out of the way. The chariots, then, thundered past the starting line signifying the final lap of the race. The Hephaestus cabin was slowly gaining towards the current first placers, Percy and Annabeth. Cables shot from their chariot and latched themselves of the Athena chariot. The latter shuddered as it was pulled backward and the Hephaestus chariot forward. Annabeth immediately drew her knife to hack through the cables, but it was to no avail. The cables were simply too thick. Percy's quick thinking got them out of the predicament. He switched with her, allowing him to draw Riptide and slash the cables like a hot knife through butter. The Athena chariot lurched forward, but the Hephaestus cabin easily pulled up next to them. Charles Beckendorf clashed with Percy. Amidst their fighting, the Ares cabin was gaining on the two of them. Apparently, she was able to hold off the Stahl brothers. The three chariots were not neck and neck as they barreled through the track. Charles Beckendorf took out a brown satchel and threw it to the Athena chariot. It stuck to the floor and began billowing green smoke. Greek fire, Annabeth yelled. Get rid of it. Percy blocked a strike from Charles. The head of the Hephaestus cabin was doing a great job of stalling Percy in time for the satchel to explode on them. He had to focus on defending the both of them. If he shifted his focus to the bag of Greek fire, Charles could attack his partner and they would end up crashing. The crowd watched as the two traded blows with each other as the satchel fizzled in the Athena chariot. Percy punched a button on his watch, making it expand like an old-school camera shutter with a leather strap. He raised the shield to block Charles's sword, making it clang against its surface. The latter didn't have time to be surprised as he was slammed on the chest with the shield, sending him flying off the chariot. Percy was about to attack the driver, but Annabeth warned him of the bomb that was about to explode. The son of Poseidon used the tip of his sword to flip the firebomb out of their chariot. It conveniently landed and exploded in between of the Ares and Hephaestus chariots, dismantling their rides and blowing the charioteers away. Everything was smooth sailing from there. There was no one else to challenge them after the lights show. Annabeth pulled the reins for their last turn. The chariot careened dangerously at the curve like it was going to capsize anytime. Somehow, though, the chariot held strong and managed to cross the finish line. The crowd erupted into a cheers. As the two charioteers dismounted their rides, the crowd mobbed them and started chanting their names. Annabeth tried to speak up to the crowd to thank Tyson and Naruto, but the crowd didn't want to listen, but she still managed to get her word out. Percy even managed to brag about his baby brother. The whole camp carried Percy and Annabeth to the winner's platform. Chiron and the previous champion, Naruto, awarded them the laurel wreaths. Line break. For the next few days, the campers enjoyed their stay in the camp. Even Tyson was getting the appreciation that he deserves from the other campers. Naruto never forgot to visit Thalia in her tree to check on her. Grover told everyone that he had impressed the council so much for surviving his first quest as a searcher and clearing the way for future searches that Old Goats gave him a 2-month-long break and a new set of reed pipes. Although, the satyr's reed pipe skills haven't improved at all. He was playing the some YMCA or something and the strawberry plants went crazy. Naruto didn't know if they were going to the direction of the music or asking for help to put them out of their misery. As they listened to their friend play his new pipes, other aspiring searchers came and thanked Grover for what he did. Certainly, more and more satyrs wanted to be searchers now that certain death wasn't completely on the table. Now that the fleece was at camp, the search for Pan would be a little bit easier. If not, then at least they have a sort of homing beacon for them to find home. In the middle of his concert, Grover offered to dissolve the empathy link with the boys he calls his brothers, but the two refused. He looked at us with a shocked expression on his face. But, if I get in trouble again, you two could be in trouble. If worse comes to worse, you could die. Then, all the more for us to keep it. Naruto argued. He's right, G-Man. If you get into trouble, we'll come running to help again. Percy added. In the end, he relented and let the two keep the empathy link. Line break. Later on, after archery class, Chiron pulled Percy aside to discuss with him about his recent predicament, school-wise. For some odd reason, a boy named Matt Sloan was blamed for everything. Percy was shocked by the news to say the least. He was pretty sure that he would have come up with a stupid story that teachers would believe, but that wasn't the case. But, how could that happen? Percy asked. Chiron's gaze switched over to a certain blonde-haired boy who was walking with Annabeth to their next class. I have a pretty good idea on who might be responsible. Percy followed his gaze. You mean Naruto? I don't know, Percy. It's unlikely that he has the ability to manipulate the mist, since he is as new as you are, but it is possible that he has a similar ability to that. Chiron explained. That would be useful when I get attacked in school again, Percy said. Chiron nodded. I will teach you how when you are ready. One more thing, Chiron added. You better call your mother. He unclipped a cell phone from his quiver and handed it to Percy. Percy rang his mother's number. As soon as the call connected and he said hello, Sally Jackson didn't stop to breathe as she scolded Percy for sneaking off to go on a dangerous quest without permission. After her long sermon, she finally took a pause to catch her breath. Oh, I'm just glad you're safe. I'm sorry, Mom. Percy said. I won't scare you again. I promise. Don't promise that, Percy. You know that things will only get worse. She tried to keep her voice straight. At least Naruto was with you, right? Yes, Mom, Percy answered. We always watch each other's backs. That's good, Sally sighed in relief. Speaking of him, where is he? He's on the way to the next class, Percy said. Can I talk to him? Sally asked. Percy looked up. Naruto was not too far away yet. He yelled for his name, catching the blonde's attention. He mouthed Mom, which the shinobi recognized, and ran towards Percy. He raised the phone to his ear and said, Hey, Aunt Sally. Naruto. I'm so glad you're safe. Sally said as soon as he heard Naruto's voice. Yeah, Mom. The blonde answered excitedly. He caught the slip of his tongue and rushed to correct it. Oops, I didn't mean. Sally waved off Naruto's concern. No, it's fine, Naruto. You're always part of the family. You can call me Mom if you like. Thank you, Mom. Stay by each other's sides, Naruto. At least, when you're on a quest, I know my boys are safe. You got it. We always got each other's back. The three caught up with how they were holding up so far. Sally brought up how Percy managed to survive a year without getting expelled. Percy explained that it was thanks to Naruto that the blame of the fire was shifted away from him. Although the son of Poseidon was still welcome to return to Meriwether, Percy still expressed his desire to move since the teachers didn't know how to deal with people like him. Sally reassured him that they would think of something. Later that evening, two demigods and a cyclops were sitting by the sand dunes overlooking Long Island Sound. They decided to ditch the sing-along with the help of the Kagabunshin no Jutsu and the Henge no Jutsu. A moment later, Tyson broke some news to us. Dream came from Daddy last night. He wants me to visit. Percy and Naruto were shocked by the news. It was the blonde who recovered first, managing to say, "What are you going to do when you get there?" Wants to work at the Cyclopes Forges. He called it an internship. Percy finally managed to get a word in. Tyson nodded. Yeah, that one. Percy's gaze shifted to the sand dunes. He couldn't help but feel jealous at the opportunity his brother was getting while he would stay in camp to train. Naruto placed a hand on his shoulder. When will you leave? Naruto asked. Now, Tyson answered. Wait, now? As in now? The Cyclops nodded. I. His brother didn't know what to say. We're both happy for you, you know, Naruto said with a bright smile. He elbowed Percy. Isn't that right, Percy? Why yeah, sorry about that. I'm just surprised, that's all, Percy forced a smile. I really am happy for you even though I am a little jealous. Naruto elbowed him again. Okay, I'm really jealous of you. You get to see Poseidon's palace and all that, but that doesn't change the fact that I will support you with what you plan to do. Tyson sniffled a little. Hard to leave my new brother and my friend. Naruto pouted. Can't I be your brother too? Yes, you can. Tyson smiled. Have to leave so I can make weapons for you. You will need them. He managed to continue, though his voice was trembling. That will be good experience for you, big guy. Naruto said. You could learn a lot from the other Cyclopes. Percy nodded. I know you will make great weapons. I bet they'll tell good time too. Yes, I will. Tyson sniffled. Use the shield well. And sorry I didn't make one for you, Naruto, no time. Don't worry about it. Just make one for me next time. Naruto chuckled. Besides, your ride's here. Naruto pointed to the surf where the familiar rainbow-colored mane was jutting out of the water's surface. The three brothers shared one final hug. They didn't know when they would see each other again. It might take a long time before they see each other again, so they had to savor every moment possible. Have to go now, Tyson said. Take care, big guy, Naruto said. We'll miss you. Percy and Naruto had to get ready for bed after Tyson had left. They had stayed by the beach until curfew, so there was no more time to mourn the big guy's departure. It was much more for Percy since he would be alone in his cabin again. As they trudged back to their cabins, dark clouds started to form at the boundaries of the camp. A storm pounded on the outside world. Naturally, not a drop of rain fell inside the camp. The Time Lord visited the two boys and began taunting them, but not for long. Percy's dream shifted to his father's palace under the sea, while Naruto dreamt of home and his old friends. The next day. It was another normal day for kids at camp. Well, no one can fault them for their naivete. Naruto woke up in the wee hours of the morning for another early morning training. Luna didn't even budge when Naruto got out of bed. She decided to sleep some more. So, there he was again doing some laps all over camp. Towards the end of his training, Naruto passed by Thalia's tree to visit her once again. It just so happened that Annabeth was in charge of guard duty. He tried to phase into the tree the way he always did when he went to see Thalia, but this time. What's wrong? Annabeth asked. I can't go in, Naruto said simply. That's odd. Naruto examined the tree and the area around it. Annabeth decided to pitch in to look for something wrong. The shinobi closed his eyes to try once again, but he was broken out of his concentration by a sharp gasp. Over by the side of the tree was a bump that he somehow missed. Annabeth was the one to notice it. Well, she wouldn't have noticed it if she hadn't stumbled over it. The bump was one of the roots that have been uprooted somehow, and under it was the familiar shimmer of armor. Annabeth decided to dig for whatever was buried under. Naruto scrambled beside her and helped her. What they found caused Annabeth to shriek as the rest of the camp was stirring from their sleep. Chapter 16, A Call from Home. It was a peaceful day in Camp Half-Blood. The sun has just risen and the day was just starting. Things were going well until a shriek was heard all over the camp. It came from Half-Blood Hill, where the pine tree that protected camp rose from the ground. Everyone in camp scrambled to get ready for battle. Dryads phased out of their respective trees and satyrs emerged out of the shrubbery. Waves of campers followed. All of them ready to aid whoever yelled out, only to find a boy standing over a girl in armor who held another girl that none of them recognized. None of them dared to approach them. The sound of hooves approaching caused the crowd to momentarily break out of their shock to let the activities director pass through to see what was happening. By the gods, he said as soon as he saw who everyone was gawking at. A good few seconds passed when the final batch of campers came. It was Percy and Grover. Even when Grover gasped, no one looked at them. All their eyes were locked at the scene in question. The only sound that could be heard was Percy trying to ask what was happening and Grover trying to get his sobs under control. It can't be. It's true, he said. Percy looked around at everyone else. He didn't understand what was happening, why even Chiron was doing nothing for this unconscious new girl. He decided to speak up. What's wrong with you people? She needs to. He didn't get to finish his statement as everyone gasped when they saw her eyes slowly flutter open. Electric blue eyes peered into the world for the first time in a long time. The sunlight hit her eyes, blinding her for a while until her eyes adjusted to the brightness. She felt something warm drip down her face, further waking her from her long slumber. Her eyes drifted from the treetops to meet a pane of familiar cerulean orbs, the owner of which was still trying to comprehend the situation. With the strength she had, she forced herself off of whoever had her in her arms. She struggled for a bit to stand for a bit. She fell to a knee only to be caught by the blonde boy in front of her. She held onto his arms and used them for support to get on her own 2 feet. Even when she was standing straight, her arms never left the boy's. Her arms wrapped boy in an embrace of her own. The blonde happily returned the gesture. She held her in her arms, savoring the warmth of another human she hadn't felt in a long while. Her mouth opened to speak. You really did it. You kept your... She didn't finish her sentence as the strain from the stunt she pulled earlier caught up to her. The pupils rolled to the back of her head and once again, her world faded to black. The infirmary. Naruto, Percy, Annabeth, and Grover stood over the newcomer. Annabeth was unusually quiet in the room. Chiron had just fed her nectar and ambrosia for her to recover. So what do we do now, Chiron? Percy asked the centaur as he attended to the unconscious girl. I am as lost as you are, my boy, Chiron answered. We have played into the hands of Titan Lord. He really is worth of his title, the Crooked One. Naruto sighed. It was then that Naruto felt a tingling sensation in his dominant hand. He didn't know what this was, but something was telling him to use a jutsu. He tried to ignore it at first, but the nagging feeling kept him from concentrating. Moments later, he had enough and excused himself from the others. Once he was outside, he immediately weaved the signs for a jutsu. Somehow, he knew exactly which one to use. Kuchi Yasei no Jutsu. Seals appeared on the ground where he slammed his hand on. Smoke appeared out of nowhere after the jutsu was cast. From within the smoke, an old toad's voice could be heard. So, what Bunta-chan said was true. You are still alive, Naruto-chan. That voice. I don't recognize him. When the smoke cleared, a small green toad was standing in front of him. Who are you? Naruto asked. I am Fukusaku from Mount Miyabuku, the land of the toads. The toad explained. So, what do you need? We have reported to the Hidden Leaf that you are still alive. You have a summons from Tsunade-kun. End of the second story. 2/3. That's it for part 3. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.